The moment I stopped trusting my therapist was when she shared my deeply personal secrets with others without my permission. She dismissed my feelings, pushed me too hard, and later I discovered her qualifications were fake. That betrayal shattered my trust and left me feeling exposed, confused, and broken. Someone I trusted with my darkest secrets had completely let me down. I trusted her with my darkest secrets. Every painful thought, every shameful memory, every little fear I couldn't share with anyone else, I told her. I thought she was my safe place, someone who understood me, who could help me find my way out of the dark. But one day, everything fell apart. It wasn't a sudden explosion, not like in the movies. It was more like a slow, quiet crack that started to grow until it shattered everything I believed about her. That moment, the moment I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, hit me like a punch to the gut. It left me confused, heartbroken, and questioning everything about my own judgment. I'm still trying to make sense of it all, how someone I let in so deeply could betray that trust. How the person I thought was my ally turned into someone I couldn't even recognize anymore. Maybe you've been there too, where the person you expected to help you becomes the source of your pain. But this story isn't just about loss or betrayal, it's about what happened next, the fight to heal, to rebuild, and to trust again, even when it felt impossible. I want to share my full story with you, because if you've ever doubted someone you trusted or felt lost in your own feelings, you're not alone. Maybe by hearing what happened to me, you'll find a piece of your own strength. So stay with me, because this is more than just a story about a broken therapist-client relationship. It's about finding the courage to face the truth, even when it hurts, and learning to protect yourself when the people you trust let you down. I promise this is a story you won't want to miss. Before I found her, I was lost in a fog I couldn't shake. For years, anxiety ruled my days, whispering that I wasn't good enough, that I'd never be okay. Some nights, the thoughts got so loud I couldn't sleep. Other days, I felt like I was just existing, going through the motions without really living. I'd carry this heavy weight in my chest, this constant tension that made even the smallest things feel overwhelming. Social situations felt like mountains I couldn't climb. I was trapped in my own mind, and I didn't know how to get out. It wasn't just anxiety, there were memories I'd buried deep, painful things I wasn't ready to face alone. Things from my past that left scars I didn't know how to heal. Sometimes the sadness felt endless, like I was stuck in a dark room with no door. So finally, after years of struggling quietly, I decided to try therapy. I was scared at first, unsure if it would help, or if anyone could really understand what I was feeling. But part of me held on to a small hope. Maybe talking to someone who knew what to do would make things better. Maybe I wouldn't feel so alone anymore. When I met her, my therapist, she seemed different, warm, patient, and kind in a way that felt real. She listened carefully, never rushing, never judging. She looked me in the eyes when I spoke, like she really wanted to understand. For the first time in a long time, I felt a tiny spark of relief. Her office was a quiet, safe place where I could finally say the things I'd never said out loud before. With each session I shared more, my fears, my past, the parts of me I was ashamed of. She was gentle but honest, helping me see things in a new way. I started to believe maybe this could work, that maybe I could find a way out of the darkness. I trusted her with my story, and it felt like a weight was lifting, even if just a little. She gave me tools to manage the anxiety, and she helped me understand the memories that haunted me. It felt like progress, real progress. I looked forward to my appointments, to the chance to speak freely and be heard. For the first time in years, I thought I might actually heal. But beneath all that hope, there were tiny moments I didn't notice at first. Small things she said or did that didn't sit right. At the time, I brushed them off. I told myself it was just me being sensitive, or that I was overthinking. I was so desperate to believe she was helping me that I ignored the little alarms in my mind. I wanted to trust her. More than that, I needed to. Looking back now, those small cracks were warnings I didn't hear soon enough. But at the time, I only saw a lifeline. And that's why, when everything changed, it shook me to my core. In the beginning, those therapy sessions felt like a breath of fresh air. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just fighting my thoughts alone. I had someone sitting with me, listening, really listening. It was a strange feeling, but a good one. There was one session early on that I still remember clearly. I was talking about a moment from my past that I'd never shared with anyone before, something that had always made me feel broken and ashamed. I could feel my voice shaking as I spoke, my heart pounding like I was on the edge of falling apart. But she didn't flinch, she didn't look away or rush me. Instead, she gently encouraged me to keep going, reminding me that it was okay to feel what I was feeling. When I left that session, I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted, even if just for a little while. It was the first real breakthrough I'd had in years. Over the next few weeks, things started to change. The anxiety that had seemed like a permanent shadow in my life began to feel smaller, more manageable. She gave me tools, simple exercises to practice breathing when the panic came on, ways to challenge the negative thoughts that trapped me. I remember the relief I felt after doing those exercises and actually seeing a difference, even if just a small one. More than the tools, it was the way she made me feel seen. In a world that had often told me to hide or pretend, she made space for my truth. Sometimes she'd share little insights about how common my feelings were, reminding me I wasn't alone. Those moments made me trust her more. One day, after a particularly tough session, she told me something that stuck with me. Healing isn't a straight line. There will be ups and downs, but every step forward counts. It was a simple thing, but hearing it from her made me believe it. It made me believe in the possibility of healing. She was patient, never pushing me faster than I was ready to go. I began looking forward to our meetings, finding comfort in the routine and the quiet understanding between us. It was a safe space where I could be vulnerable without fear. I started opening up about things I'd kept buried for years, childhood memories, fears about the future, moments where I felt broken or unworthy. And with each story, each tear, each hard truth, I felt a little more whole. There were little things too, like how she'd remember details from previous sessions, or how she'd check in on me after a difficult week. Those small acts built a bridge of trust between us. It felt like she genuinely cared, like I mattered. I began to think maybe, just maybe, this was the help I'd been searching for all along. Maybe I could finally stop running from my pain and start facing it head on. But as much as those early sessions gave me hope, they also made what came next even harder to understand. Because sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. At first, the cracks were so small I almost didn't notice them, like little whispers in the back of my mind that I tried to ignore. After all, she had been so kind, so patient. Why would I doubt her? But then there were moments, tiny, almost easy to brush off, that started to feel wrong. Like the time I shared something deeply personal, and instead of the usual gentle response, she seemed distracted. Her eyes would glaze over for a second, or she'd glance at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I told myself maybe she was just tired or had a rough day. Another time, I was opening up about a painful memory, something I'd never told anyone else. I expected her to offer comfort or at least listen quietly. Instead, she made a quick comment that felt dismissive. It was like she was minimizing what I was feeling. I remember sitting there, frozen, trying to convince myself it was just me overreacting. Maybe I was too sensitive. Then there were the moments when she seemed to push me to talk about things I wasn't ready for. She'd say things like, "You need to face this now," or "It's important to get to the root of your pain." At first, I appreciated her honesty. I thought it was a sign she was really invested in helping me heal. But sometimes her tone felt sharp, almost impatient. It made me shrink back, but I kept telling myself I had to trust her judgment. What confused me the most was how she could switch between being caring and distant so quickly. One minute she'd be warm and encouraging, the next cold or distracted. It was like I was seeing two different sides of her, and I didn't know which one to believe. Sometimes, I caught myself second-guessing my own feelings. Was I imagining things? Was I just paranoid because I'd been hurt before? I wanted so badly to trust her, to believe she was on my side. But the more I ignored those little red flags, the louder my doubts grew. I felt stuck in this impossible place, wanting to hold on to the hope that she could help me, but also sensing something was off. Like I was trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit. At night, I'd replay our sessions in my head, searching for clues, trying to make sense of the moments that didn't add up. But every time I thought I found an answer, I'd push it away. Maybe she was just having a bad day. Maybe I was overthinking because I was scared. That internal battle wore me down. I was exhausted, not just from my own struggles, but from doubting the one person I thought could guide me through them. Looking back now, I realize those were the warning signs, the small cracks that should have made me pause and listen to my instincts. But in the moment, I was desperate for healing, and I couldn't afford to lose the one person who seemed to offer it. I didn't want to see the truth. And that's why what happened next hit me so hard, because it came from someone I had trusted with everything. I still remember the day it happened, the day everything I thought I knew came crashing down. It wasn't one of those huge dramatic moments where something explodes out of nowhere. No, it was quiet, almost subtle at first, but the shock hit me so hard, it left me breathless. That session started like any other. I was nervous as usual, carrying a mix of hope and hesitation. I had prepared myself to be open, to dig into the parts of myself I'd been afraid to face. She sat there with her usual calm expression, the one I'd learned to trust over the months. But then, almost out of nowhere, she said something that stopped me cold. She mentioned a detail from my life, something I had only ever shared with her in confidence. Not just a small thing, but something deeply personal that I had never told anyone else. I froze. How could she know that? At first, I thought maybe I'd forgotten telling someone else. But no, it was impossible. Only she knew. And yet, here she was, bringing it up like it was common knowledge. My heart started pounding. "Where did you hear that?" I asked, my voice trembling. She smiled, only it wasn't the warm smile I was used to. It felt cold, almost calculating. "I was talking with a colleague," she said casually. "Sometimes we discuss cases to better understand how to help." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was sharing my story, my pain with someone else. Without asking me, without permission, I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but all I could do was sit there, stunned. Then things got worse. She started pushing me in a way she never had before, telling me I needed to do things faster, to stop clinging to my pain. She said I was holding myself back, and that if I really wanted to heal, I had to let go of the past completely. At first, I thought maybe she was trying to motivate me, but her words felt harsh, almost like a demand rather than encouragement. I told her I wasn't ready, but she brushed it off, insisting it was necessary. Something inside me broke that day. I left the session feeling raw and exposed, like I'd been torn open and left vulnerable without any protection. But the worst was yet to come. A few days later, a mutual acquaintance mentioned something to me in passing, a strange comment that didn't make sense until I put the pieces together. They'd heard about my situation, details that should have been private. I realized then that my therapist hadn't just shared my story with a colleague in a professional setting. She had talked about me with people outside of work, friends, acquaintances, strangers even. I felt betrayed in a way I couldn't describe. How could someone who was supposed to protect me, who had sworn confidentiality, treat my life like gossip? The more I thought about it, the more things started to unravel. I checked her credentials online, and that's when I found the twist that shook me to my core. Her qualifications weren't what she'd told me. The certificates she'd shown me were fake. The license she claimed to have didn't exist. Everything I had believed about her, the safety, the professionalism, the care, was a lie. I was left feeling foolish, broken, and more alone than ever. But the worst part was the betrayal of trust. Because when you're vulnerable, when you're broken and looking for help, the last thing you expect is for the person you confide in to use that trust against you. I questioned myself endlessly after that. Had I imagined things? Was I overreacting? But deep down, I knew the truth. I had been betrayed, and that betrayal left scars that took months, maybe years, to begin healing. After that moment, after the betrayal, I felt like I had been punched in the chest. The shock slowly gave way to a whirlwind of emotions I wasn't prepared to handle. Anger, sadness, confusion, a deep aching sense of loss. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. How could someone I trusted so completely have done this to me? How could she so casually throw away my privacy, like it didn't matter? It felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. At first, I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers. But all I could do was sit with the pain. It was raw and heavy, like a stone in my chest, that wouldn't move no matter how hard I tried. I felt lost, not just because she'd betrayed me, but because I didn't know who I could trust anymore. Therapy had been my safe place, the one thing that gave me hope when everything else felt hopeless. Now, that safety was gone. It was like a part of me shut down. I stopped wanting to talk, to open up to anyone. The thought of sharing my story again, of trusting someone new, felt terrifying. What if it happened again? What if the next person wasn't who they said they were? I remember nights lying awake, my mind spinning with doubts. Was it really her fault? Had I done something wrong? Was I too sensitive or too trusting? These questions haunted me, I started blaming myself for not seeing the signs sooner, for letting my guard down when I shouldn't have. That self-doubt was one of the hardest parts to overcome. It's easy to tell yourself, I'm strong, I'm smart, I would have noticed if something was wrong. But when it happens, you feel small and broken. My anxiety, which had already been hard to manage, came rushing back with a vengeance. I felt trapped inside my own head, terrified that the betrayal meant I'd never be safe again. I didn't want to go back to therapy or talk to anyone, but at the same time, I desperately needed help. It was a cruel paradox, wanting to heal but being too scared to trust the very people who could help me do it. For weeks, I felt stuck in that place, too afraid to move forward, too broken to stay where I was. I withdrew from friends and family, unsure of how to explain what had happened without breaking down. But slowly, very slowly, I started to realize that the betrayal didn't define me. It didn't erase all the progress I'd made, or the strength I had inside. I began to remind myself that trust is fragile, yes, but it's also something I could rebuild, piece by piece. I just had to be patient with myself. It wasn't easy. Some days the pain still felt sharp. Some nights, the doubts crept back in. But over time, I started to believe that healing was possible, even if it looked different than I expected. I want you to know that if you've ever felt this way, hurt by someone you trusted, scared to open up again, you're not alone. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to struggle. What matters is that you keep trying, even when it feels impossible, because healing isn't about forgetting or pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about facing the hurt, learning from it, and finding the courage to move forward. Looking back, that painful experience taught me so much about trust, boundaries, and the importance of taking care of myself in ways I hadn't before. One of the biggest lessons was that trust isn't something you give blindly. It's something you build, step by step, and it needs to be earned and respected. I realized that gut feelings, those small quiet warnings inside, aren't just paranoia or overthinking, they're signals we need to listen to. Before, I wanted so badly to believe in my therapist that I ignored those feelings. I pushed aside doubts because I was scared to lose what felt like my last chance at healing. But now I understand that honoring those instincts is part of protecting yourself, and it's okay to say no when something doesn't feel right. I also learned that setting boundaries is essential, not just with others, but with yourself. I had to relearn what it means to value my own feelings and limits, especially after someone else had broken my trust. It wasn't easy to put myself first, especially when I'd spent so long trying to be strong for everyone else, but that was the start of real healing. After some time, I found the courage to try therapy again. This time, I was more careful, more aware of what I needed and deserved. I asked questions, checked credentials, and made sure I felt safe and respected before opening up again. But healing didn't come only from therapy. It also came from leaning on friends, journaling, practicing self-care, and learning to be gentle with myself on hard days. I found strength in small moments, taking a walk when I felt overwhelmed, saying no to things that drained me, reminding myself that healing is a journey, not a destination. I won't pretend it's been easy. There are still moments when the past feels heavy, when trust feels fragile, and when fear tries to creep back in. But now I have tools and a support system that help me stand strong. Most importantly, I've learned that healing is possible, even after betrayal. It's possible to find hope again, to rebuild trust, not just in others, but in yourself. If you're watching this and struggling with something similar, I want you to know it's okay to be cautious, to take your time, and to protect your heart. But don't give up on healing. Don't give up on yourself. There is light on the other side of pain, and sometimes, it starts with simply choosing to keep going, even when it's hard. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real and honest stories. You're not alone, we're in this together. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever experienced something similar or have thoughts you want to share, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Your story matters, and together we can create a space where no one feels alone. If this video resonated with you or helped in any way, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might need to hear it too. Remember, you're not alone in your struggles. We're stronger when we stand together.